They won't help you. They never planned to. And the moment you realize that, you stop begging and start building. Support is a myth sold to keep you slow. A promise whispered to the weak so they wait instead of move. You were taught to look around first, for approval, for allies, for permission. That pause is where most lives die. When no one stands behind you, the illusion collapses, the performance ends, the masks fall faster than you expect. Isolation doesn't ask how you feel about it. It happens the moment support disappears, and most people panic there. They confuse absence with abandonment. They confuse silence with failure. They confuse being alone with being wrong. That misunderstanding destroys them. Because isolation is not emptiness, it is exposure. When you are alone, there is nowhere to hide incompetence, no one to absorb blame, no one to soften consequences. Every flaw becomes louder. Every delay becomes heavier. Every weakness demands payment. In groups, people borrow confidence, they borrow certainty, they borrow direction. Alone, nothing is borrowed, everything is earned. That's why isolation feels cruel at first. It removes comfort without apology. It strips away the padding people mistake for strength. You notice how often you waited for reassurance, how often you paused to be agreed with, how often you mistook company for progress. Those habits don't survive solitude. Without an audience, excuses sound hollow. Without witnesses, self-deception loses credibility. You can't lie convincingly when no one is listening. Isolation becomes a mirror you can't turn away from. It shows you patterns you avoided. The need to be liked, the fear of disappointing, the addiction to feedback. All of it becomes visible, uncomfortable, undeniable. This is where most people retreat. They run back to noise, back to advice they didn't earn, back to voices that reassure instead of correct. Not because those voices are right, because they are familiar. Isolation forces responsibility. Total responsibility. If something fails, it's yours. If something works, it's yours. No dilution, no credit sharing. That pressure either sharpens you or fractures you. You begin to see who was never aligned, who only showed up when momentum existed, who vanished when effort became quiet. How long you persist without recognition. Whether discipline survives without applause. Most people don't like what they see here, so they leave. They label isolation unhealthy. They call it imbalance. They warn against it. What they're really warning against is accountability, because isolation removes social anesthesia. No numbing. No distractions disguised as connection. You hear your own thoughts clearly. Some are weak, some are sharp, all are yours. That clarity is dangerous, not to you, to illusions. Isolation doesn't build you gently. It cuts away what doesn't belong. And when you endure it long enough, something shifts. You stop craving validation. You stop adjusting to be palatable. You stop performing competence. You become precise instead. Precision replaces volume. Substance replaces appearance. Intent replaces approval. You learn that being unsupported was not an obstacle. It was a filter. It removed those who would slow you. It removed habits that diluted you. It removed the noise that kept you small. What remains is lean, clear, uncomfortable, and usable. By the time others notice you again, you are no longer looking for company. You are calibrated. And that makes you difficult to manipulate. When support disappears, words become dangerous. Every sentence costs you position. Every explanation leaks intent. Those without leverage speak first. They rush to be understood. They rush to be forgiven. They rush to be seen. That urgency exposes them. Silence does the opposite. It hides need. It conceals direction. It creates uncertainty. Uncertainty makes people cautious. Cautious people hesitate. Hesitation creates openings. When you say nothing, others fill the gap. They project motives. They assume weakness. They invent narratives. Those narratives reveal more about them than any question ever could. Silence forces exposure without confrontation. No pressure, no demand, just space. Most people can't tolerate it. They talk to relieve tension. They explain to regain control. They confess to reduce anxiety. Every word they offer is information handed away. When you are unsupported, information is currency. Spend none carelessly. The world is full of traps disguised as conversations. Arguments bait reaction. Debates lure disclosure. Clarifications invite judgment. You are not required to participate. Silence refuses engagement without creating enemies. It denies others feedback. Without feedback, they can't adjust. They escalate. They test boundaries harder. They reveal intent. What begins as sarcasm becomes disrespect. What begins as curiosity becomes probing. What begins as politeness becomes pressure. Silence makes that progression visible. The loud mistakes silence for weakness. They underestimate the quiet. That mistake costs them, because silence is not absence. It is restraint. Restraint conserves energy. It preserves optionality. It protects reputation. Nothing unsaid can be twisted. Nothing withheld can be weaponized against you. Most damage is self-inflicted, careless honesty, emotional confessions, unnecessary transparency. You don't owe clarity to anyone. Confusion keeps you mobile. When you don't announce plans, they can't be blocked. When you don't explain moves, they can't be countered. Silence buys time. Time sharpens advantage. In negotiation, the first to speak reveals need. Need shifts power outward. When you pause, others rush to fill space. They lower expectations. They raise offers. They expose urgency. Silence applies pressure without effort. No risk. No commitment. It also filters people. Those who require constant reassurance were never solid. Those who grow impatient without access were never aligned. Silence attracts projection. Some see threat. Some see mystery. Some see opportunity. All are useful. You don't control perception by explaining. You control it by limiting access. Rarity increases weight. Overexposure destroys it. People who speak constantly must defend consistency. One contradiction ruins them. Those who speak rarely choose precision. When you finally speak, your words land heavier. They don't need repetition. The quiet are underestimated. That is the advantage. While others argue to be right, you wait to be effective. Silence is not passivity. It is dominance without fingerprints. And in a world that feeds on reaction, the one who withholds it controls the tempo. That control compounds. By the time others realize you were never weak, you are already positioned where noise cannot reach you. Motivation is unreliable because it asks permission. It waits for mood. It negotiates with comfort. That delay is lethal. People with support can afford to wait until they feel ready. They borrow energy from encouragement. They lean on belief that isn't theirs. You don't have that luxury. When no one is backing you, emotion becomes a liability. It rises and falls without warning. It lies about capacity. Structure does not lie. Structure moves whether you want it to or not. It doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't respond to doubt. It executes. This is why unsupported people either collapse or become terrifyingly consistent. Structure removes the daily decision. No debate. No hesitation. You wait because it's required. You move because it's scheduled. You finish because it's assigned. Choice is where weakness hides. Choice invites delay. Delay compounds failure. Structure closes exits. Most people think freedom comes from options. It doesn't. Options create mental noise. Noise creates exhaustion. Exhaustion creates excuses. Structure simplifies. Sequence replaces emotion. Process replaces hope. You don't ask how you feel. You ask what's next. That shift changes everything. Willpower burns fast. It needs recovery. It breaks under repetition. Systems conserve energy. They turn effort into habit. Habit into identity. Identity is difficult to destroy. When no one is watching, structure becomes honest. There's no one to impress. No one to perform for. No one to reward effort. Only completion counts. This is where excuses die. Missed actions become obvious. Patterns of avoidance expose themselves. You can't blame circumstances forever. That discomfort is useful. It corrects behavior without emotion. People romanticize passion. Passion is unstable. It flares. It fades. Structure is cold. Cold preserves. Under pressure, emotion reacts. Structure absorbs. This is why crises eliminate the inspired and elevate the prepared. And elevate the prepared. When chaos hits, you don't rise to belief. You fall to structure. And if structure is weak, everything collapses. Structure also protects you from yourself, from impulsive decisions, from emotional sabotage. When anger spikes, the system holds. When confidence drops, the system carries. You stop being a hostage to internal weather. Over time, resistance weakens. Action becomes automatic. What once felt heavy becomes normal. This is the moment others misunderstand you. They call it discipline. They call it talent. They call it obsession. They never saw the architecture. They didn't see the rules you obeyed when no one was watching. Structure doesn't motivate you, it replaces motivation. And in that replacement, freedom appears. Not freedom to do anything, freedom from chaos. While others wait to feel strong, you move because it's scheduled. And scheduled actions compound. Progress builds quietly, without applause, without validation. That silence protects it. Structure wins because it doesn't care who supports you. It doesn't need belief. It doesn't need encouragement. It only needs obedience. And obedience to your own system is how unsupported people outlast everyone else. Dependence never arrives loudly. It settles in quietly, disguised as comfort, explained as necessity. You don't notice the chain until something pulls it. Most people are owned by something. A paycheck they can't lose. An opinion they need. A relationship that defines them. A routine they didn't choose. Ownership begins where need becomes non-negotiable. The moment you must have something, power shifts away from you. Immediately, permanently, need creates urgency. Urgency creates mistakes. Mistakes create leverage for others. Those who need approval can be directed. Those who need money can be rushed. Those who need belonging can be silenced. Independence is not rebellion, it is insulation. It reduces the number of handles others can grab. The fewer inputs required to function, the fewer attack points exist. This is why minimal needs create maximum control. When you rely on one source, you inherit its rules. Its mood becomes your risk, its instability becomes your weakness. Independence diversifies survival, not abundance. Optionality, options slow time. Desperation accelerates it. The dependent negotiate from fear. The independent negotiate from patience. Fear always overpays. Real leverage is not threat. It is the ability to walk away calmly. No speeches, no ultimatums, no drama. Just absence. Just absence. That possibility alone reshapes conversations. People speak differently when they sense you don't need the outcome. When nothing essential can be taken from you, manipulation loses traction. Pressure fails, guilt fails, incentives weaken. Incentives. This is why power avoids attachment. Attachment demands protection. Protection demands compromise. Independence allows refusal without explanation. You don't convince. You don't justify. You don't defend. You simply don't require. Most people mistake independence for isolation. It isn't. It's self-sufficiency in motion. You can engage without entanglement. Participate without submission, leave without loss. Independence also clarifies loyalty. Those who stay without leverage are rare. Those who leave when control is gone were never aligned. This knowledge stabilizes you. When resources are internalized, external threats lose power. You stop chasing. Chasing signals need. You start selecting. Selection signals authority. Independence creates calm because outcomes no longer define identity. Win or lose, you remain intact. That stability unsettles people. They sense you don't need the result, which means you can wait, and patience pressures the impatient. This is why the independent appear cold. They aren't detached from life, they are detached from dependency. They feel less because feeling more would hand control outward. Independence is emotional minimalism. Nothing excessive, nothing exploitable. Over time, this becomes visible. People approach carefully. They test lightly. They negotiate softer, not because you are aggressive, because you are immune. You are hard to corner, hard to rush, hard to threaten. There is nothing vital they can remove, and in that absence of leverage, power settles quietly. Not loud, not announced, just undeniable. One day you notice it. The calm, not peace. Control. Nothing hooks you anymore. Praise passes through. Insults miss. They try to move you. They fail. And that's when they realize you were never dependent. You were free. You were never meant to be understood, only positioned. Those who need approval can be steered. Those who need comfort can be delayed. Those who need support can be controlled. But when nothing essential can be taken from you, pressure stops working. That is when power settles, quietly without permission. And remember this, a man who depends on others for his strength builds his future on unstable ground.